Still confused over everything in Guild Wars 2 as a new player? Don't worry, I've got you covered with this video. Some of the most common questions that I come across in the game are about boons and conditions. So this video, we're going to dive right in and explain all 12 boons and 14 conditions for new players. This way you can be armed with enough knowledge to be able to make a fun build and enjoy your character in Guild Wars 2. Now, I made a video talking about gear and attributes for new players. I highly recommend that you click on that link and watch that video before this mess of a video. Okay, so let's start with the basics here again. With only 10 skill slots that you can use at one time, the first 5 are based on your weapon. Skill 6 is your dedicated healing skill, and then your 7 through 9 skills are kind of like your utility skills that you can swap out and use based on your situation, and the last one being your ultimate or elite skill. These all can give your character status effects like healing and protection along with their attack damage or conditions. There are more combinations than we can cover here in a single video, but I wanted to start with the boons. There are 12 in total, as I mentioned before. These are positive status effects for your character that you get from using a skill or ability. I feel like you can sort these into kind of like offensive, defensive, and just regular miscellaneous support categories. See, all the boons can either be extended in duration or stacked in intensity. Duration just refers to the boons lasting longer. Intensity is a little different. It refers to how powerful your boon is. So rather than how long it lasts, might and stability are the only two that function like this, for boons anyway. For your 3 offensive boons, we have Fury, Might, and Quickness, because these increase your damage potential. The Fury boon increases your critical chance and stacks duration. Might increases your outgoing damage, both direct damage and condition damage, and it stacks in intensity. Quickness is a little bit different, but also still increases the amount of damage you do because it makes your skills and actions faster. There are 4 defensive boons. Aegis, which blocks the next attack, and again this one only stacks in duration. Protection reduces incoming damage by 33%, and this one also stacks duration. Resolution reduces your incoming condition damage that you receive by 33%. So it's similar to protection, but protection only keeps you safe from taking direct damage. You're reducing it 33%, where resolution reduces the condition damage you take, so that's from burning and poison and all that stuff, by 33%. Stability makes your character immune to crowd control abilities. This one is similar to Might, and it can stack in intensity. Finally, there are 5 kind of support miscellaneous boons. That one being Alacrity first, which makes your skills recharge faster. Regeneration heals you over time, and that stacks duration. Swiftness increases your movement speed by 33%, and that also stacks duration. So this is a nice little speed buff. Vigor increases your endurance regeneration by 50%. Endurance is the kind of like your stamina bar, and it allows you to dodge. So some examples of how these can be used include healers focusing and providing lots of regeneration and protection for their groups, like with elementalists and their water magic and earth magic skills could provide that. A support character could also focus on providing a lot of alacrity or quickness, and pairing that with fury or might to the party with their skills. Mesmers can do this very well, for example, and increase the damage done by their entire party as well as themselves. Boons are great and important, and right now there is a strong need for quickness and alacrity in group content, so keep that in mind. These positive status effects can make your character more effective in combat in any situation, and if you want to make sure your boons stay active for as long as possible, be sure to get gear that increases your concentration attribute. As I mentioned in my previous video, concentration extends the time that boons last on your characters, and then in your party as well. There's also skills and traits that do the exact same thing. 1 stack of might at level 80 will equal to about 30 power and 30 condition damage, for a total stack of 25. At level 80, 25 stacks of might will equal plus 750 direct damage and plus 750 conditions, which makes for a very, very spicy power-up. Stability works similarly, with more stacks making your character immune to knockdown, pushback, pull, launch, stun, daze, float, fear, and taunt. Each attack that applies one of those control effects will remove 1 stack of stability. So ideally, you want to have as many stacks as possible so you can absorb a pushback, a pull, a launch, a stun, any of those effects. Add 0 stacks of stability, the next control effect that your character receives will affect you, and good luck getting your character back so you can actually play it. There are skills and abilities that remove boons from opponents, so be sure to watch out for that. You don't want to get caught in a rough spot with your boons down, right? So it's something to consider. Bosses and NPCs, they will also do similar things, or maybe they'll have danger regions where if you step in this pool of lava or something, not only do you take burning damage, but maybe it'll remove a boon. Here's an example of a quickness healing build that I have with my Guardian. My role is to provide quickness to my party for as long as possible, ideally 100% of the time, while also doing some healing. So here my gear has concentration as one of its top base stats. So now for my favorite part, the conditions. These are negative status effects that can do damage to opponents or control them. Condition damage is separate from strike damage and ignore toughness, which is your armor, and protection. As mentioned in my previous video, this is boosted by your condition damage and expertise attributes. So there are 5 main damaging conditions. Bleeding, which does damage every second and can be stacked in intensity, similar to the might boon. Burning, which also does damage per second and can stack in intensity. Confusion, which is damage on skill activation. So that's a little bit different. It's when an NPC, boss, or maybe another player, whenever they use a skill or ability, confusion will then tick for damage. And that can also stack for intensity. Poisoned, it ticks for damage per second, just like the others. However, it also reduces your healing effectiveness 33%. So if you have poison, the healing you get will be greatly reduced, or from your healing skill. This also can stack in intensity. Torment does damage per second, but it does a bonus increased amount of damage if your opponent is not moving. Also stacks it in intensity. There are 8 control conditions. Blinded makes your opponent's next attack miss. This stacks duration. Chilled decreases movement speed by 66%, but in addition, it also increases your skill cooldown by 66%. So say you have a skill that takes 10 seconds to recharge. If you get hit with Chilled, that'll increase it to a little over 16 seconds. Also stacks in duration. Crippled decreases the movement speed by 50% of your opponent. Also stacks in duration, so it's a nice little slowdown, similar to Chilled, but doesn't have that additional cooldown. Fear is an involuntary retreat where your character is unable to act. This also stacks in duration. Then you also have Immobilized, where foes affected by Immobilize are unable to move in any way. This also stacks for duration. Then you have Slow, where skills and actions are slower. Taunt is an involuntary attack on a target. So Taunt will make the next attack swap targets. There is Weakness, which is endurance regeneration decreases by 50%, and hits are glancing blows 50% of the time at 50% damage. And that also stacks for duration. So glancing blows just means that their direct damage is going to be, 50-50 chance of their direct damage being cut in half. There's also one other kind of random miscellaneous condition. Vulnerability. Damage and condition damage are increased, and this also stacks in intensity. So just an example, one stack of bleeding at level 80 will start out at about 22 damage a second, where 55 stacks will deal 1,100 damage per second. And conditions can stack for much higher than just 25. Boons are capped at 25 for balance reasons. You don't want like a ridiculous amount of regeneration, right? Damage conditions are a great way to defeat an opponent. It's one of my favorite ways. I love making condition builds, condi builds. Poison and Torment are kind of more specialized, reducing healing a target receives, and then the other one punishing them for not moving. And then Confusion is also similarly requires like a target to use its skills and actions in order to take damage. So it's a little bit different. It's not as easy and straightforward as Bleeding or Burning. And then control conditions kind of work to give your character an advantage in combat. So Cripple, Chill, Immobilize, and Fear all can work to keep an opponent like at range, or Blind and Taunt can be used to avoid taking damage. And then also you can use both boons and conditions together for some amazing results. And like I said, there's so many combinations, and I hope this video kind of like helped explain the different effects a little bit more clearly. There are more class-specific things like auras and blast finishers, but those require combos in combat to apply, and I'll leave that for a whole nother video. Anyway, thank you for watching this video. I hope this video was helpful to you as a new player in Guild Wars 2, and let me know in the comments like what else you'd like to see or know about, especially if you're new. If you're new, just ask me a question. I love to explain, or I know a lot of people who love to explain. Consider liking and subscribing to my channel for more Guild Wars 2 content. I'm the Dusk Cerberus, and this is my new Dominion, and I'll see you in the next story.
The enemy has taken point B. Point A is yours.